Airpeace to airlift stranded Nigerian students in Sudan to Nigeria today. Federal High Court approves airing 1 billion naira suit against Abubakar Malami. On the foreign scene, police arrest man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbors in Texas shooting. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Opayamuni. Chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NITCOM, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, says an Airpeace aircraft has landed in Egypt to airlift stranded Nigerian students in the war-torn Sudan to Nigeria. Dabiri-Erewa, who made the announcement in a tweet on Tuesday evening, said the aircraft would take students who had been given clearance to move into the North African country. Chairman of Airpeace, Alan Onyema, had offered to use the airline to evacuate Nigerians stranded in Sudan for free. The aviation mogul had said if Nigerians in the Northeast African region could be moved to a neighboring country, the airline would fly there and evacuate them, as Sudan's airspace is closed for civil aviation flights. As part of joint rescue efforts, the Nigeria Air Force evacuation team left for Aswan Airport in Egypt on April 29th to also airlift the stranded Nigerians. According to the Commission, priority was given to female students amongst the 449 students across the border. Now to politics. The Abia State House of Assembly has dismissed the purported impeachment of a Speaker, Chinedum Orji, by some members of the House led by its former Deputy Speaker, Ifeanyi Uchendu. This was made public during a preliminary session of the House presided by Orji on Tuesday. A video which has now gone viral on social media emerged on Tuesday morning, where some members of the House sat in an undisclosed location, reportedly impeached the Speaker and elected Chukwudi Akpogho as the new Speaker. But a member of the House, Jerry Uzosike, during the preliminary described the move of the House as unconstitutional, disgraceful, and against the rules of the legislature. It moved a motion that all the members involved in the alleged impeachment should be suspended with immediate effect and a new deputy speaker elected. The House members also elected the member representing the Ohafia North State constituency, Ugwo Onwu Obasi, as the new deputy speaker. 8 political parties that won seats in the House of Representatives say they will cooperate with the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, on the zoning of a speaker and deputy speaker positions. The Reps-elect expressed commitment on Tuesday at the inauguration of a coalition in Abuja. The political parties involved are the APC, People's Democratic Party, PDP, Labour Party, New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, Social Democratic Party, SDP, African Democratic Congress, ADC, and Young Progressives Party, YPP. Speaking at the event, Kumo said the lawmakers are committed to promoting stability in the 10th National Assembly. Kumo said although the coalition has no preferred candidate for the office of Speaker and Deputy Speaker, they will support the zoning proposal of the ruling party. In Benue State, the Transition Committee of the Governor-elect, Asint Alia, has raised the alarm over an alleged delay in the release of handover reports by the summer-autumn-led state government. The committee, in a statement signed by Mike Eodie and Dan Asieka on Tuesday, recalled that the Benue State government had constituted a transition committee on March 22, 2023. It added that the government's committee is headed by the Secretary to the State Government, Tony Ijoho, with all members of the State Executive Council as members and the Director of the ESCO, Bartholomew Ageraga, as Secretary. It went on to enumerate its demands, which included comprehensive handover notes covering the period of outgoing administration 2015 to 2023 for all ministries, departments, and agencies, including the debt profile and the state of finances of the state. In other news, the suspended resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State, Udu Yunusa Ari, is in police custody. Police spokesman Muyiwa Adejobi said in a statement that the police arrested the embattled wreck in Abuja on Tuesday. The development comes hours after Ari said in a BBC Hausa interview that he would surrender himself to the police 2 weeks after he went into hiding. The suspended reg had also said he never regretted announcing Aisha Binani Dahiru as the All Progressives Congress as the winner of a 2023 governorship election in the state. Ari had courted controversy after the supplementary election in Adamawa on April 15, 2023, when he announced Binani as the winner of a dramatic poll while the collation of results was ongoing. The situation prompted the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to nullify Ari's decision and suspended him while President Muhammadu Buhari ordered a full investigation on the Electoral Commissioner and the security personnel that were around him when he made the declaration. And out of judicial matters, a federal high court sitting in Abuja has granted the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria leave to serve a writ of summons on Meta platform, the social media giant and owner of Facebook. The court gave the nod pursuant to an application by Akon in a pending 30 billion naira suit against the social media giant for violation of extant advertising laws of Nigeria. Akon is seeking a declaration that the publication of various advertisements and marketing communications materials targeted at Nigeria through Meta's platforms without prior vetting and approval by the Advertising Standards Panel is illegal. The regulatory body also claims that the act disregarded Nigerian culture, constitutional tenets, moral values, and religious sensitivity of citizens. Akon is therefore seeking an order of perpetual injunction restraining the defendants, their privies, agents, servants, and associates from publishing any advertising or marketing communications materials without recourse to Akon in line with the country's advertising law. The federal government says the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has indicated interest to discontinue its case against the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, and the Registrar of Trade Unions. This is according to a statement on Tuesday by Director of Press and Public Relations, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Olajide Oshundu. The case before the National Industrial Court Abuja Division is challenging an alleged threat by the federal government to withdraw the union's certificate of registration for not rendering annual financial returns and audited accounts for almost 10 years now. However, the ministry disclosed that the union had indicated it wants the matter to be resolved amicably at the Alternative Dispute Resolution Center of the court. In the meantime, the Federal High Court Abuja has approved the hearing of a suit accusing the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, of abusing his office. The suit is equally seeking an order to compel the AGF to pay 1 billion naira as damages to an international businessman and property developer, Cecil Osakwe. The plaintiff told the court that the AGF, using his office, arm-twisted him to give out 2 units of 3-bedroom flats in one of his properties situated in Mekong Close, Maitama, Abuja, to a civil servant, Asabe Waziri. Osakwe alleged that Malami forced him to hand the property worth about 130 million naira to Waziri against a subsisting order of a court of competent jurisdiction. Aside praying the court to declare that the AGF engaged in abuse of public office, the plaintiff urged the court to order him to pay 1 billion naira as damages. In Imo State, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has called for workers in the state to withdraw their services while raising the alarm over what it called anti-workers practices. According to a circular on Tuesday by the NLC General Secretary, Emmanuel Ubuaja, the directive is based on the resolutions of a joint emergency meeting of a Central Working Committee of the NLC and Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. The circular noted that the unfortunate May Day development in Imo State was discussed at the meeting. The NLC added that the participation of the affiliates was central to achieving their collective objectives. You are watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Sanusi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkelemens was a natively corrupted version of peculiar mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back on Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. Now to the rest of the stories. The federal government says over 13,000 Nigerians benefited from its various flood relief interventions across the affected states in the country. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Nasir Gwazo, disclosed this on Tuesday. He was speaking during a meeting with relevant stakeholders in the humanitarian services in Abuja. Gwazo said the impact of the flood disaster necessitated collaboration with relevant humanitarian agencies to support government response towards providing succor to the victims. According to him, the 2020 flood disaster has resulted in the loss of lives and livelihoods of Nigerians across the country. The Nigerian Senate President Ahmad Lawan has hailed Nigerian journalists on the occasion of the World Press Freedom Day. Lawan, in a statement today in Abuja, by Special Advisor on Media, Ola Awoni, said journalists have made immense contributions to the social, political, and economic development of Nigeria. The statement added that Nigerian journalists deserve appreciation for their contributions to democracy and governance in general in Nigeria as the fourth estate of the realm. Lawan reiterated that the 9th National Assembly has ensured in the past 4 years that no legislation under its purview tampers with promoting press freedom. The United Nations General Assembly declared May 3rd to be World Press Freedom Day. The Uniosun Teaching Hospital chapter of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, has called on the Osun State government to save the state-owned hospital from burnout syndrome, which is as a result of brain drain at the hospital. This is coming in the wake of a 2-week ultimatum the NARD has given the federal government to meet its several demands. Toby Sanusi has more on this.
Out of the many demands of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, include 200% increase in the consolidated medical salary structure of the current gross salaries, implementation of CONMES, and among others, withdrawal of the bill seeking to compel medical and dental graduates to render 5-year compulsory services in Nigeria before being granted full license to practice. Speaking on the issues surrounding these demands, President of NARD, Uniosun Teaching Hospital Chapter, John Ojo, maintained that the 200% salary increase became necessary owing to the persistent inflation in the country. Dr. Ojo corroborated his submission by saying that the federal government already approved 40% pay rise for the workers, excluding doctors and lecturers.
For us to arrive at the 200% increment, we had our own calculation. As we speak, as at probably 2009, $1 to Naira was around probably 150, 152, between 150, 160, 190. As we speak now, dollar, I'm very sure, is to Naira is more than 700. And then they made 70% increment for other people in other sectors, except for the lecturers and the doctors. Are we going to different markets? Is it not the same markets that those ones are going, that we're also going? The allowances, doctors get everything from themselves. They pay for exams, they pay for refreshment courses from their bosses, and it's not too much. For a doctor, it's not too much. As we speak, it's also a way to curb the brain drain.
As the effect of brain drain continues to bite hard in many government hospitals, Dr. Ojo further decried a delay in the implementation of some allowances that have been approved by the federal government but not yet implemented at the Union Teaching Hospital, which is said has contributed to the incessant exodus of doctors from the hospital to either federal government hospitals or hospitals outside Nigeria.
Yes, for us at the local level, as we know that the federal challenges is for everybody, but the state-owned teaching hospitals have their own peculiarity, because whatever you bargain for at the federal level, by the time you get to the state, you have to open another negotiation with your governor. For us at this center, federal government have been enjoying so much over the past 5 years, we've not even tasted it. I will quickly list those challenges. We pay for the same exam, we pay for the same updates, we do the same researches. Federal government has approved what is called Medical Residency Training Fund, which is just like an allowance for the update and exam courses that you attend, and also the researches that you conduct during your residency training. But for us, it has been approved since 2017. Federal government started paying since 2020. So our counterparts in federal teaching hospital have been enjoying it for the past 3 years. For us, we've not even tasted it.
Earlier, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, had faulted NART's demand, saying the doctors feel too entitled. But many doctors like Olufemi Ojewi and Abiodun Olagunju described Dr. Ngige's statement as politically driven, saying it misrepresents the association's demands.
It's asking doctors are entitled. I think it's going too far. The minimum demands that the doctors have made over the years, in his own capacity as the Labour Minister, what has he done about it? In his capacity as probably one of the closest ministers to the President.
When I saw that and read the bill, I laughed. Because number one, ask question. If we're to be that the person that sponsored the bill, if we're to be that his son or daughter is a medical doctor, will he allow that? And the bill is nothing. Why will you compulsory for somebody to stay 5 years before you can travel, before you can go for greener pasture? That is one of the reasons why doctors deserve special treatment. Because if you treat doctors very well, doctors will not be saying that they want to travel, the popular syndrome, that they want to jackpot.
The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors had gone on a 63-day strike in 2021 over non-payment of hazard allowances and insurance for doctors treating COVID-19 patients, among others. However, it is yet uncertain if the association will embark on industrial action after the 2 weeks ultimatum or wait for the federal government's intervention. Toby Sanusi, Western Spring Television News.
On the foreign scene, a man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbors in a shooting near Austin on Friday has been arrested. Sheriff Greg Capers said 38-year-old Francisco Oropesa was arrested in the town of Cotton Chute, Texas, in a home hiding underneath some laundry. Police have accused him of killing 5 of his neighbors after an argument about him practice shooting with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle nearby. The victims were all from Honduras and included a 9-year-old child. Officials said in a news conference on Tuesday evening that the suspect was arrested for 5 counts of murder after a member of the public contacted the FBI tip line. Officials also confirmed that authorities had offered a reward of $80,000 for information leading to his arrest, and this money will be given to the person who called in the tip-off.
Sheriff Greg Capers, San Jacinto County Sheriff's Office, with great news. The suspect is in custody. I have just left Montgomery County Jail where he was taken, and he has been magistrated. He now will be taken to my jail and where his new residence will be. I would like to thank the men behind me and the women behind me. They're not women here right now, but everybody played a very, very integral part in the arrest and capture of this coward. We now have this man in custody. He was caught hiding in a closet underneath some laundry. They effectively made the arrest. He is uninjured, and he is currently being taken to my facility in Cold Springs.
In the United Kingdom, a man was arrested outside Buckingham Palace after throwing suspected shotgun cartridges into palace grounds. A cordon was erected and a controlled explosion carried out following the incident, which unfolded on Tuesday. The man was arrested on suspicion of possession of an offensive weapon, but there are no reports of any injuries. Despite the incident, overnight rehearsals for the coronation on Saturday went ahead as planned. Police say the man was searched and a knife was found, but that he was not carrying a gun. They say he was also found to be in possession of a suspicious bag and that a controlled explosion was carried out as a precaution following an assessment by specialists. In the Middle East, Israeli forces and Palestinian armed groups in Gaza have agreed to a ceasefire after a night of Israeli airstrikes pounded the besieged coastal enclave, while rockets were launched towards Israel following the death in prison of prominent Palestinian hunger striker Qadir Adnan. The reciprocal and simultaneous ceasefire went into effect at 3:30 a.m. and was brought about with efforts from Egyptian, Qatari, and United Nations officials. Islamic Jihad spokesman Tariq Salmi said fighting had ended by dawn today. Hamas said its leader, Ismail Haniyeh, held talks with officials from both countries and the UN to end Israel's attacks, which saw Israeli fighter jets and tanks attack targets in Gaza late on Tuesday, and Palestinian fighters fire rockets into Israel, following the death of Adnan after he spent 87 days on hunger strike in an Israeli jail. A joint statement by factions in Gaza on Tuesday, including Hamas and Islamic Jihad, said the rocket fire was an initial response to Adnan's death. Now to some business stories. Indian budget airline Go First has cancelled all of its flights for the next 3 days after filing for bankruptcy protection. The carrier says a full refund will be issued to affected customers. It is the first major airline in the country to file for bankruptcy since Jet Airways went bust in 2019. Go First blamed U.S. engine maker Pratt & Whitney for having to ground many of its planes, which it says caused a severe cash flow problem. Go First said the problem forced it to ground 25 aircraft, about half of its fleet of Airbus A320neo planes, which caused about $1.3 billion in lost revenue and expenses. The airline also accused Pratt & Whitney of not following an order by an emergency arbitrator, which included supplying at least 10 serviceable spare leased engines by 27 April 2023. Shares in several regional banks in the United States have dropped sharply as investors fear the banking crisis that has gripped financial markets is not over. The falls come a day after the collapse of First Republic, which was seized by regulators and sold after worried customers withdrew more than $100 billion. It was the second biggest bank failure in U.S. history and the third since March. Shareholders were wiped out and are now eyeing risk at any other banks. The turmoil comes as the banking sector is adjusting to a sharp rise in interest rates. And now talking sports, a football superstar Lionel Messi is facing disciplinary action, possibly suspension from Paris Saint-Germain for taking a trip to Saudi Arabia without the club's permission. Reports of a possible 2-week suspension mean Messi could miss PSG's next 2 games and comes at a delicate time as the French club hopes to extend the Argentinian star's contract beyond this season. According to reports, the World Cup champion will not be allowed to train or play with the team and will not be paid during his suspension. Messi led Argentina to the World Cup title in December while he has also scored 15 league goals and leads the French league with 15 assists. Martin Odegaard fired Arsenal back to the top of the Premier League as the Norway midfielder's double inspired a 3-1 win against woeful Chelsea on Tuesday. Mikel Arteta's side lost control of the title race after last week's 4-1 defeat at Manchester City, but the Gunners signaled the intention to push City all the way to the wire with a much-needed first win in 5 games. Arsenal are now 2 points clear of second-placed City, and while Pep Guardiola's men remain favourite to win the title, City will go back into first place if they beat West Ham at home today in the first of their 2 games in hand on Arsenal. After 10 weeks at the top, Arsenal were knocked down to second place by City's win at Fulham on Sunday. To tennis, world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz breezed past Alexander Zverev 6-1, 6-2 to reach the Madrid Open quarterfinals on Tuesday. Third-ranked Daniil Medvedev crashed out against a Russian compatriot Aslan Karasev 7-6, 6-4. In the women's competition, world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka was forced to sweat by Maya Sharif, but eventually came through 2-6, 6-2, 6-1 to reach the semi-finals. Top-seeded Spaniard Alcaraz, who also beat Zverev in last season's Madrid final, gained revenge for the German's triumph when they met later in the 2022 French Open quarterfinals. 2-time Madrid winner Zverev was blown away in the opening set. The US Open champion dropped just 2 points in the first set in his near-immaculate service games and put strong pressure on the German's service.
I can talk. I can tell you from myself. It's tough to be better than today. But I always say that you can be better and you can play better. But I have to tell Juan Carlos what can I improve.
New Zealand boxer David Light suffered a mild stroke and underwent surgery for a blood clot following his world title defeat to Lawrence Okolie. The 31-year-old Light lost on a unanimous decision to Britain's Okolie for the World Boxing Organization cruiserweight belt in Manchester in late March. His coach, Isaac Perch, told reporters that Light reported no ill effects when he flew home but felt unwell in the days after his return. Light was admitted on April 17th to a hospital in Auckland where surgeons removed a blood clot. He is recovering in hospital, but Perch would not be drawn on whether Light will fight again. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. Chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NITCOM, Bike Dabrirewa, says an Air Peace aircraft has landed in Egypt to airlift stranded Nigerian students in the war-torn Sudan to Nigeria. The Federal High Court Abuja has approved the hearing of a suit accusing the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, of abusing his office. On the foreign scene, a man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbors in a shooting near Houston on Friday has been arrested. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12. I am Okpayamuni. Thanks for watching.